ये जो कंटेंट है आपको मैं लगातार आपको इस यूआरएल पर डाल रहा हूँ 3p प्रोग्राम डॉट steno 18.in। ये आप फ़ोन पे भी एक्सेस कर सकते हो अपने फ़ोन पे इस एड्रेस को डायरेक्टली गूगल क्रोम में सर्च में नहीं मिलेगा ये आपको। मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कोई बटन लगवा देता हूँ उसका ताकि आपको टाइप ना करना पड़े, पर ये अगर आप गूगल क्रोम पर डालेंगे तो आपका लॉगिन हो जाएगा। इसमें जो आता है डेमो पे भी जाके आप इसको एक्सेस कर सकते हो अगर आपने अपना लॉगिन अकाउंट ब्लॉक दिखा रहा है, वरना आप इसको क्या कर सकते हो, लॉगिन कर लो, लॉगिन एक्टिवेट हो जाएगा यहाँ से। उसके बाद में आपको इसमें टेस्ट दिख जाएंगे। जो टेस्ट का नाम आएगा, सपोज आज जो डिक्टेशन बोल रहा हूँ मैं SSC C एंड D ग्रेड, यहाँ पे आएगा टेस्ट 24 यूट्यूब, स्पीड लिखी होगी आगे @100 @80 विद कोमा नो कोमा। स्टार्टिंग में आपको कोमा के साथ विद नो कोमा चल सकते हो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, लेकिन आफ्टर 10-12 टेस्ट के बाद या 22 के बाद में आपको विद कोमा ही टाइप करना चाहिए। हालांकि SSC कोमा की मिस्टेक काउंट नहीं करता, लेकिन अगर आप विद कोमा टाइप करते हो तो वो कोमा को गलत भी नहीं मानता। और कोमा के साथ चलने में बेनिफिट क्या हो जाता है, कोई और एग्जाम देना हो तो आपको अलग से प्रिपेयर नहीं करना पड़ता। कोमा छोड़ने का लाभ नहीं, कोमा इसेंशियल कोमास लगा लेना चाहिए। अब इसेंशियल कोमास एकदम से इकट्ठे नहीं होते, धीरे धीरे इकट्ठे होते हैं। आप डेली देखते हो यहाँ पे कोमा लगना चाहिए था, मैंने नहीं लगाया तो उसको ऑब्जर्व कर लिया, इस तरह से आप उसको लेके चलते हो। ये आपको 3 स्पीड में मिल जाएगा, 2 स्पीड में। उसके अंदर जो ऑडियो पड़ी हुई है, रिलीवेंट ऑडियो है, वही ऑडियो है जो इसके अंदर है, लेकिन ये ऑडियो नहीं जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ। मैंने ऑडियो तो डाली है 100 वाले में, पूरी जो वर्ड बोले जाते हैं 1000 के आसपास बोलने की कोशिश करता हूँ, 1000 प्लस 1040 जो भी बोले जाते हैं, लेकिन जो ऑडियो है वो 840 की ऑडियो है उसके अंदर। जबकि 80 के अंदर जो वर्ड बोले जा रहे हैं 840 उतनी ही ऑडियो है जितनी आपको बोली जा रही है। ठीक है, जो शॉर्ट फॉर्म्स में बता रहा हूँ ये रैंडम शॉर्ट फॉर्म्स है, कलेक्शंस है। कोई एक जगह होती है आपको PDF पकड़ा जाता है, उसका कोई दिक्कत नहीं थी। ये सब रैंडम्स है, कोई कहीं से ली गई है, कोई कहीं से क्रिएट की गई है। ठीक है, एक वर्ड आता है वाइस वर्सा, तो वाइस को V से काट देंगे, वाइस को V से काट देंगे, क्या पढ़ेंगे इसको, वाइस वर्सा। एक वर्ड आता है वाइवा, लाइन को काटते हैं वीवा, वी और वा, वीवा वॉइस, वोस, VOC। बाय ओरल टेस्ट, ये आउटलाइन वीवा वॉइस के लिए यूज करेंगे और ये वॉइस वर्सा के लिए यूज करेंगे। अबाउट दिस टाइम, अबाउट लाइन से ऊपर बनता है अबाउट, दिस टाइम आएगा तो यहीं पे सर्कल लेके T और M लगा देंगे। आप क्लियरिटी के लिए यहाँ पे या तो डॉट लगा सकते हो और नहीं तो आप औ भी लगा सकते हो, वरना उसके बावजूद भी अबाउट दिस टाइम ही पढ़ा जाएगा, क्योंकि ऊपर से जो ऑल दिस टाइम की बजाय अबाउट दिस टाइम आप डॉट लगा सकते हो क्लियरिटी के लिए। अबाउट दिस टाइम लास्ट ईयर, अबाउट दिस टाइम लास्ट ईयर, M छोड़ देंगे यहाँ पे, लास्ट में T छोड़ देंगे, ईयर का R लगा देंगे, लास्ट का लूप जो होता है S का सर्कल लगा के डाउनवर्ड R लगा दो, क्या हो जाएगा, अबाउट दिस टाइम लास्ट ईयर। एक्नॉलेज्ड, कॉन्ट्रैक्शन है, K और G लगा देते हैं। एक्नॉलेज्ड फैक्ट आएगा तो K को हाफ करके ज्वाइंट कर देंगे यहाँ पे, ये बन जाएगा एक्नॉलेज फैक्ट। एक्ट के हाफ हो जाता है वो लाइन, एक्ट ऑफ गॉड गे, नीचे इंटरनेट लगा दो। ठीक है, नहीं भी लगाएंगे तो भी वो एक्ट ऑफ गॉड ही पड़ जाएगा वैसे। एक्ट के अब लाइन हाफ हुआ, ऑफ का ऑफ लगा दिया, एक्ट ऑफ गॉड। एक्शनेबल रॉन्ग, एक्शन में ही R और NG लगा दो बस, एक्शन रॉन्ग नहीं होगा, हमेशा एक्शनेबल रॉन्ग होगा, एक्शनेबल रॉन्ग। एक्चुअल प्रैक्टिस, पी आर और के प्रैक्टिस के लिए यूज करते हैं, के हाफ करके यहां पर लगा दिया एक्चुअल प्रैक्टिस। एडिशनल के लिए डी में लगाते हैं, एडिशनल रेवेन्यू आ जाए, रेवेन्यू को राम लोग भी यूज किया जाता है आर अपवर्ड लगा के, एडिशनल रेवेन्यू। एडिशनल एडिशंस एंड अल्टरेशंस, एडिशंस एंड अल्टरेशंस, डबलिंग करो, सन में एस लगा दो, डी हाफ करो, एस का सर्कल लो, एडिशंस एंड अल्टरेशंस। अगेंस्ट के लिए क्या करते हो, अगेंस्ट देयर, देयर के लिए आप डबलिंग करते आए हो, देयर एक अच्छा काउंटर है, वो है फ्रेजोग्राफी, जिसके लिए आप क्या कर देते हो, डबलिंग कर देते हो। अगेंस्ट, अगेंस्ट देयर, एक वर्ड आ गया अगेंस्ट देयर विशेज, तो यहीं पे आप क्या करेंगे, अगेंस्ट देयर विशेज। एग्रीकल्चर बताया था पहले आपको मैंने कि डबलिंग कर देते हैं गियार की, क्या पढ़ देते हैं, एग्रीकल्चर। एग्रीकल्चर होल्डिंग, एक वो आता है एक्ट है होल्डिंग्स एक्ट, एग्रीकल्चर होल्डिंग्स एक्ट, पहले होल्डिंग आएगा तो इसी में आप क्या करेंगे, एग्रीकल्चर में ही डाउनवर्ड एल में एस लगा देंगे, एग्रीकल्चर होल्डिंग्स, और अगर एक्ट आ गया तो इसी को कंटिन्यू करेंगे, एग्रीकल्चर होल्डिंग्स एक्ट, के ऑफ कर दो, वर्ड लिखो, अबाउट, अबाउट दिस टाइम, अबाउट लास्ट ईयर, वाइस वर्सा, वाइवा, acknowledged, acknowledged fact, act of God, actionable wrong, practice, actual practice, additional revenue, additions and alterations, after mature consideration, against their wishes, against their, agriculture, agriculture holdings, agriculture holdings act, एक वर्ड बोला मैंने आपको, आफ्टर मैच्योर कंसिडरेशन, आफ्टर के लिए डबलिंग करते हो आप एफ की, मैच्योर कंसिडरेशन, एम की डबलिंग कर दो उधर, एस प्लस सन लगा दो, आफ्टर मैच्योर कंसिडरेशन। आफ्टर द मोस्ट केयरफुल कंसिडरेशन, पहले आफ्टर कैसे बनाएंगे आप, डबलिंग कर रहे हो एफ की, आफ्टर, आफ्टर द आएगा, आफ्टर द मोस्ट, आफ्टर द मोस्ट कंसिडरेशन, कंसिडरेशन, या फिर इसको आप मोस्ट के बाद में के लगा के एस प्लस सन भी लगा सकते हो, कंसिडरेशन के लिए एस डी आर प्लस सन लगा दिया, या फिर के साथ में एस प्लस सन भी लगा सकते हो, आफ्टर दी मोस्ट कंसिडरेशन, मोस्ट में टी को ओमिट कर दिया गया है, ये तो पढ़ा है ना आपने कि एस टी को, में जब भी एस टी आता है इमीडिएटली तो हम टी को क्या कर देते हैं, ओमिट कर देते हैं। जैसे योर लास्ट लेटर एक वर्ड आता है तो क्या करते हो आप, योर बनाते हो, लास्ट का टी छोड़ के सर्कल लेटर के लिए डबलिंग कर देते हैं, इसमें योर है, लास्ट है और लेटर की डबलिंग है, इसका साइज थोड़ा बड़ा, योर लास्ट लेटर। या फिर मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट लिखते हो तो मोस्ट का क्या बनाते हो, टी छोड़ देते हो। एस टी इमीडिएटली अगर आ रहा होता है और वहां पे आगे नेक्स्ट वर्ड ज्वाइंट हो रहा होता है तो सर्कल के साथ में आगे बढ़ जाते हैं, वही एस टी पढ़ा जाता है। टी कॉम्बिनेशन काफी ज्यादा यूज किया जाता है कॉन्ट्रैक्शन के पर्पज से। लिखो भाई, डिक्टेशन लिखो। पहले लिखेंगे आप 100 पे, जो आपको मिल जाएगी 24 टेस्ट के नाम से इस बारे पे लॉगिन करने के बाद में। एक मिनट, started. First of all, I would like to say that I have been an admirer of the Indian Railways for its critical support to the life and living of the people in the country. Secondly, it has had an impressive record on several counts in recent years. Railways carry as freight items like processed materials, food grains, etc. It has manufacturing as well as repair and maintenance units. It has also very good organizations like the RITS and the IRCON, which have done extremely well in terms of operating results. In this connection, let me compliment the Honorable Minister for his very bold confession on the day he took charge that he was taking charge of the railways in a very good condition. Mr. Vice Chairman, we know that the Honorable Railway Minister was a very eminent trade union leader. Particularly, he was a union leader in the railway industry itself. Perhaps this switch over to the other side of the fence, though agonizing, is a challenge to him, and I am sure he is getting the feel of the challenge and measuring up to it. The performance of the railways during the 11th five-year plan has been really impressive. It has generated rupees 527 crores of surplus, reduced the deferred dividend, and it has reduced its dependence on the general budget. It is of the order of only 41% now. It has also successfully resorted to the instruments of internal resource generation and external resource mobilization from the market. Modernization of workshops, renewal of tracks and coaches as well as rolling stock have been high on the agenda, and most of these have been met with a general degree of satisfaction. Computerizations of passenger services has been a very welcome thing, and a large part of the general public is enjoying its fruits. I do realize the problem of resources and the other kinds of things which the Honorable Minister had raised. For example, how it is going to affect the job prospects, etc. But sir, the fact remains that the railways have to earn the confidence and the support of the commercial clients. The commercial clients depend primarily on the quality of freight service offered by the railways. As far as the freight service is concerned, railways have a commercial problem. They are competing with the truck industry. the railway freight service is mainly dependent on the quality of service provided by the railways, the cost and the time involved in that context. Of course, we realize that the truck industry is energy deficient and it is very costly. But in the final analysis, it is the consumer who has to bear the cost. The business and industry could care less whether the goods are carried by a cheaper mode of transport like the railways or a costlier mode, namely by trucks. However, in this, the economy as a whole gets hurt. Particularly, the railways are likely to lose in terms of the freight traffic offered. I see a reference made in the Honorable Minister's statement in regard to the thrust in the next plan. We realize that it would require more resources and more than that, much more efficient management and support from the entire group of railway employees at all levels. It is important that railway employees should be enthusiastic and involved, and one does not get their involvement by simply exhorting them, wishes them to do a better job, but through suitable instruments of management. Certainly, railways require much more capable leadership at all levels. We have a very dynamic railway minister. I have respect for individual members of the senior railway staff. Some of them are my friends and some of them I know at a personal level, but in a competitive world, you have not only to do a good job, but continue to do it all the more in an improved way. Now, there are three aspects in the railway development program. As a passenger, we are interested in the new railway lines. Not only that, we are also interested to see that the railways promote the infrastructure to support development, potential growth for the depressed areas. Laying of the new lines is very critical, but more than that, productivity of the current assets of the railways is also one of the critical determinants of the final efficiency of the railway system. Now, with regard to the new railway lines, I would like particularly to refer to the eastern region. Historically, railway lines were laid in the coal belt and some of other areas primarily to provide links and support to the extractive industry. We want all minerals from the pitheads to be carried to the points where they were used, particularly for the new industrial centers. Coal, iron, ore, iron and steel remain even today one of the dominant segments of freight carriage. So, the density of railway lines in these two regions, particularly Bihar and West Bengal, has a historical origin. But if you look at the post-independent India, the per capita increase of railway track is that region has not been improved. I shall now give a brief survey of the provisions in the bill which are designed to encourage investments in productive enterprises to stimulate higher productivity as well as exports and to provide resources for expansion of industry. In order to encourage investment by individuals and Hindu undivided families in the equity shares of new industrial companies in India, provision has been made for the grant of tax-free tax credit certificates to them with reference to their subscriptions to eligible issues of capital by such companies for a period of 4 financial years commencing with the financial year in which the investment is made. The amount of the tax credit certificates is to be calculated at a slab system of rates and will be limited to rupees 1,250 for each financial year on a total investment of rupees 30,000. Under the original provision in the bill, only the first subscriber to eligible issues of capital qualifies for the tax credit certificates. ये 1000 के आसपास वर्ड है, 1010 वर्ड है और फ्लक्चुएशन 108 तक का है, इसकी स्पीड 100 प्लस है और ये आपको मिलेगा एसएससी सीएनडी ग्रेड टेस्ट 24 के नाम से. अब आप 80 पे लिखेंगे. Ready? Start it. Mr. Vice Chairman, I was speaking about the need for developing a strong UN delegation. I wish that the Honorable Prime Minister would give his attention to this aspect of the matter, particularly in view of the fact that in the next decade or two, politics all over the world would take on a complex character, and it is necessary that men are trained from now on for taking part in international affairs. In the UK and the United States, such delegations are built with men who have wide knowledge of international affairs, and there should be other qualification for a man to be included in such a delegation. In this connection, I should also like to mention that it is time for government to develop sound conventions regarding the conduct of foreign affairs. In the United States, they have accepted the principle of bipartisan consultation on important affairs of policy. For example, when President Kennedy stood for election, President Eisenhower, even during the period of the conduct of the campaign of President Kennedy, kept him informed about major developments in foreign affairs. We have seen our government sending troops out of this country to the Congo, and at the time I had raised the point that before troops left our country for any assignments of an unusual character like the Congo assignment, members of the opposition should be informally consulted. There will be no question of any leakage of information whatever if leaders in the opposition are consulted on important aspects of foreign policy. The consultative committee of the External Affairs Ministry does go some way to meet the needs of exchanging information about foreign affairs, but the informal consultation of the kind that I mentioned, where the leader of the opposition and leaders of other parties are called and told by the Prime Minister about unusual developments would strengthen the conviction that the foreign policy of the country has the support not only of the Congress party but also of the entire country. I was speaking about our external publicity, and it is a subject on which I think I can speak with some confidence, as I have been an all-time newspaperman in this country. The material which is sent out to foreign countries is extremely scrappy and useless. There is included in these messages some statement of what this minister was saying somewhere. We are trying to give publicity to ministerial activities, and it is inevitable that some such publicity should be given, because ministers are in charge of the government, but one abroad does not get a real idea of what is happening in the country. I would like to suggest for the consideration of the External Affairs Ministry that they should send a fortnightly assessment of what is happening in India, written dispassionately, not to please a minister or to highlight something that he has done, but to give an objective assessment of what is going on in the country. In the old days, when the British government was in existence, such fortnightly reports used to be sent by various state governments, and I think a beginning can be made in that direction in this matter. The other point I would like to suggest is that publicity is a complicated and technical matter. The Foreign Service, as it is constituted today, does not have sufficient training in publicity. The Estimates Committee, which went into the demands of the External Affairs Ministry, mentioned about the methods of training which have been adopted. But since our foreign service men are not trained in publicity work, and one sees, for example, that a lot of confusion has arisen in the United States over Ambassador Nehru's statement. I think the External Affairs Ministry might well set up a committee of members of parliament who are conversant with external publicity and some newspapermen to advise the External Affairs Ministry from time to time. I do not think that the committee will ask for information which is confidential or secret, but they can assist the newspapermen. There are a handful of competent men who would be willing to serve on the committee in an advisory capacity. They would be able to tell the External Affairs Ministry what should be done in order that our news publicity abroad is better. I might mention also that the estimates committee had recommended the creation of a cultural cell. Sir, to my mind, we have also to be clear in our mind regarding the objective of rural industrialization. Do we mean to have only diversification of rural economy, and are we going to have rural industrialization only in order to give some help to those who find themselves unemployed during a certain period of the year? Are we aiming at utilizing local resources and meeting local needs through diversification of rural economy, or have we a more fundamental objective in mind when we are trying to industrialize the rural areas? Without this, I am afraid rural industrialization will not be possible. ये कंटेंट लगभग 80 प्लस स्पीड पे है और इसका जो फ्लक्चुएशन है वो 85-86 तक का है, और ये आपको @ 80 पे मिल जाएगा। वर्ड इसके अंदर 840 के आसपास है। ठीक है।